Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We we are streaming and we are live in the living room. And shall I uh, display the verse on the screen?
Yeah, hang on a second. I'm not hearing you too well. I'm going to put in an earbud.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are,
Hmm.
is everything audible?
Not
Good now.
quite. Bear with me a second. Sorry. Okay. All right, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So somehow I'm not hearing you well, so
Okay,
I don't know what else to do.
we will project if yeah.
So,
We
who is your friend here, Vrindavan?
This is Jagannath Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare
He
Krishna,
also
Prabhu.
he stays here also. And we have one more devotee from the ashram we are expecting to come a little late, but so we can introduce at the end.
Okay. All right. I need another second here. Okay. Let's see. That's a little better.
Okay.
I can just barely hear you, so something, I don't know what's wrong. You hear me all right now?
Yes, yes, Gurudev.
Okay, much better. Hi. All right.
Okay.
Okay, shall we begin then?
Yes, please.
All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo
Namaste Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
This is a very special verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. One morning, or once Srila Prabhupada was asked by Professor Thomas Hopkins, who is a scholar in Bhagavatam, what is the most important passage in Srimad Bhagavatam? Prabhupada immediately quoted this verse. And I think many devotees were surprised, thinking there would be others that would be more prominent. But he selected this because, I mean, uh, it's a passage, this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, the answers given by Sutta Goswami to the questions raised by the sages in Naimisharanya in chapter 1 is perhaps the most concentrated philosophical explanation of Krishna Bhakti anywhere in the world. So these verses from 6 to 22 really deserve to be studied one at a time because Srila Prabhupada frequently refers to them throughout his books. So it's good to be conversant with them as much as possible. And they're all great for memorizing and using for teaching Krishna consciousness. So today we'll just focus on this verse, which has a lot of ramifications in our lives. Why don't we do the synonyms first? And it's a little awkward online to do call and response, but we'll do our best. Huh? Actually, how about if you mute? That way it doesn't get too muddled.
Yes.
Okay. So let's all read the synonyms simultaneously here. Dharmasya, occupational engagement. He, certainly. Apavargasya, ultimate liberation. Na, not. Artha, end. Artaya, for material gain. Upakalpate is meant for. Na, neither. Artasya, of material gain. Dharma eka antasya, for one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service. Kama, sense gratification. Labhaya, attainment of. He, exactly. Smritaha is described by great sages. Dharmasya hyapavargasya. Narta urtaya kalpate. Nartasya dharmakantasya. Kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Dharmasya hyapavargasya. Natorta upakalpate. Nartasya dharmakantasya. Kamalabhaya hi smritaha. Translation. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Nitai, would you like to read the purport?
Krishna Prabhu, yes, for sure.
Abel.
Purport. We have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from material existence. But there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered, and most people are attracted by such allurements or blessings of religiosity. Why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. This cycle of occupational engagements includes so-called religiosity, followed by material gain, and material gain followed by fulfillment of desires. Sense gratification is the general way for all sorts of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Sutta Goswami, as per the verdict of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is nullified by the present shloka. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be used for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows.
Okay, so please scroll back to the verse. Yes, so all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Thank you. So we can just go back to gallery. Thank you. You see everybody. So the verse says that all occupational duties are meant for ultimate liberation. What does that mean in terms of like varnashram?
How each varna is designed is to lead the person to his ultimate goal, which is liberation. Or that is the
That's
duty
right.
of each person in the varna.
Yes, that's right. By doing one's occupational duty, in the Gita, Krishna explains, one can become perfect. It doesn't mean that all occupational duties are the same, but according to what our nature is, acting according to our nature, the whole Varnashram system is meant to bring us to first the mode of goodness and then to ultimate liberation. That's explained later in this chapter. Again, very important verses. Evam prasana manaso, that having been freed with kama, lobha, lust, and anger and greed, then one can come to the mode of goodness and enter the spiritual platform. But the idea of Varnashram is that all occupational activities, whatever it may be, are meant ultimately to help us come closer to Krishna. That's why Varnashram, Prabhupada emphasizes, is so important, because we see that we may take up spiritual life with a lot of enthusiasm, but unless we're engaged in a way and in an ashram situation that is actually consistent with our nature, it'll be difficult to maintain our spiritual practice. Back in the old days, in the 70s, everybody was going to be a sannyasi. All the brahmacharis were. There was a picture in Chicago in 1975 of all these Radha Damodar brahmacharis and others, all gathered around Prabhupada. You might have seen this picture. There's a lot of buses in the background, and it was right when the sun was in everybody's face, so everybody's but all those men, that was sort of my tribe. They're all going to be sannyasis. And ultimately, only 4 of them took sannyas, and of those 4, only 1 is still a sannyasi. So it is a rare person who's actually comfortable in that position of life. Although it's not certainly exclusive. In other words, anyone who wants to can live that sort of a life of full renunciation. And that is the highest ideal. And at the same time, all occupational duties are meant for ultimate liberation. So not just the sannyas order, not just the Brahminical Varna, but all occupational duties. Has anyone seen Urmila's, was it Career Dharma? Has anyone been through the Career Dharma course? You saw.
Yes,
So one of the very,
through.
you have also Vanumukhi. So it's one of the very nice things about that course is how she and her co-author Rukmini have defined the Varnas. So Brahminical Varna is the area of, do you remember?
Ideas.
Ideas, right? The Kshatriya Dharma is the area of
Government.
yes, government, governance. The Vaishya Dharma is the area of
Resources.
resources, and the Shudra Dharma is the area of
Artistry.
artistry. Right. So all of these are equal. It's just how does one roll? What is one's nature? Artistry is a very expansive one, which includes engineering, surgery, vocations we might think of as being, very elite. But these are people whose passion is to do something very nicely. And other aspects are a secondary consideration. So the way they define it shows the way it is meant to be, very equal in nature. We see that in the Gita also, that Krishna is equipoised as far as the different varnas. What he's emphasizing is to act according to one's nature. One of the only verses, there's only 2 verses in Bhagavad Gita that are repeated in essence. And one of them is Shreyans Dharma Vigunan. One should do one's own duty because if one tries to do another's duty, it will result in destruction. Better to do one's own duty imperfectly than someone else's perfectly, right? So remember this. So this is occupational engagement. It really means according to one's nature. Now, of those 4 occupational engagements, only 1 is meant for economic development, which is the resource, the Vaishya. And the Vaishya is driven by profit. Okay, The profit motive surpasses other considerations. It surpasses artistry, how well one does something. It surpasses ideas, doing something to help the world. It surpasses governance, like imposing rules and seeing there's fairness and justice in society. So the one dharma that allows for economic development as a inherent quality is the Vaishya. And so some people are just inclined toward that. They make money and whatever they touch turns to gold, and they'll work very, very hard for building up a business. And then, somebody else can figure out the other things. Similarly, in the ashram side of things, there's only one ashram that's meant for making money, and that's the Grihastha ashram. Brahmacharis are meant to be impoverished. The Vanaprasthas meant to no longer be involved in economic development, and sannyasis, of course, meant to be completely dependent on others for their livelihood and their sustenance. There's no livelihood per se because they've committed civil suicide. Now they're just like a ward of the society. So this is the ideal. All of these occupations, all of these varnas and ashrams are meant for ultimate liberation. And one has to act according to one's nature. So this vision of equanimity is really important for understanding our lives as devotees and for understanding what varnashram actually means for society. So a devotee is already on the top, actually above the varnashram system. If you come to the point of, I just want to serve Krishna with my life, I just want to make this my last life in this world, I just want to go back to Godhead, I just want to please Guru and Krishna. If we have that mood, then that's already surpassed any varnashram considerations. They're considerations, but only secondary. How can I position myself in this life with the minimum friction so that I can maximize my spiritual growth? That is the position of the devotee. So yes, like Arjuna, we have to do all of our duties, we have to take care of our responsibilities, everything. But our goal is ultimate liberation. So that's the second half of this verse. All occupations are meant for ultimate liberation, and for one who's on the path of ultimate liberation, that is the devotee, economic development or financial gain should never be used for sense gratification. Does not say that one should not have financial gain. It just says that one should not use it for the purpose of enjoying this world. One can facilitate one's life, one can facilitate one's health, one can facilitate one's service. That's all fine. But if one is thinking, let me make a comfortable niche in this world, then one has fallen from that platform of the path of ultimate liberation. You see? So what then is the role of money in Krishna consciousness? Some impersonalists will have the mood that I don't want to be involved with money because it's a thing of this world. The Mayavadis have a real problem with this world, They say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, right?
Yes.
Brahman alone is truth and this world is false. So they have it actually, it's very backward. You think about it. Because this world is real. Who can deny that this world is real? Only a crazy person would say, this world is unreal. It's real. It's solid. It's in front of us. We're affected by it every day, whether we like it or not. Of course, it's real. It's just not where we belong, but it's real. But the Mayavadi, the impersonalist, is saying, but Brahma Satyam, spirit is truth. Everything else is false, but only spirit is truth. Spirit underlies everything. All of these varieties in the world are just temporary illusions. But but Brahman is real. That alone is real. So their goal is to merge into Brahman, to know Brahman, to be Brahman. They feel like that's the end of the culmination of their spiritual journey. But then, in that position, this world is all unknowable but God is knowable, you see? But the opposite is just true. This world is knowable. Our occupation is knowable. Our skills are knowable. But God is unknowable. But that's what makes Krishna so fascinating, because he's unknowable. He's inconceivable. He's always doing new and amazing things. So you see how the impersonalists have it backwards. You can't know this world. And in fact, they just try to say, you don't even need to know this world. You don't even need to know it. You just ignore it. So similarly, that is the mood towards finance also, right? Superficially. And you don't need money. That's just money is another illusion of this world. Whereas the devotee will say, you have money, give me money. I will use it for Krishna. There was a devotee here at Gainesville who was out on campus talking to students. And he met this one impersonalist, aspiring impersonalist. And this guy was saying, no, it's not Krishna. You guys are wrong. Everything is one. Everything is one. So the devotee said, so if everything is one, then the money in your wallet is one, is whether I have it or you have it, it makes no difference, right? He said, yes. I said, so give me your money. Prove it. Prove that you. And so the guy was very determined, and he gave him $50, which was a lot of money back then. And the devotee went back. And then a little while later, they came knocking at the door. I need that money back. So it's a very impractical philosophy. Srila Prabhupada gave this beautiful example of finding a wallet in the street. If a person finds a wallet in the street, they can respond to it in one of three ways. One person can say, oh, not my wallet, I'm not touching it. Another person can say, oh, my lucky day, I found the wallet, this is mine now. But the third one will say, oh, this is somebody's wallet, let me find out who is the owner and return it to them. So this is how we relate to the material world according to our spiritual development. If we look at this world and think, oh, let me enjoy it, then this is the exploitive mentality of the materialists. Great, I don't know who owns it, I don't know where it came from, but it's here for me, let me make the most of it. And then the Mayavad, or the renunciate, artificial renunciate, will say, oh, not mine, I have nothing to do with it. I'm leaving it. Nothing in this world has any value to me, no responsibilities, I have nothing to do with it. But the devotee says, oh, let me find out who owns this world and return it to them. Because that is the honest and wise thing to do. So we are not afraid of money in Krishna consciousness. We gratefully accept donations because this is a way that most people can engage in Krishna service. They have that tremendous responsibilities to earn a living and to support a family or whatever they're doing. They have responsibilities to take care of themselves and nothing else. So they have to be busy with that basic duty. But in the course of that, they have some economic development. They give something to Krishna. That's for their benefit. This is how they can serve Krishna in the easiest way. So we accept that money. But then the important thing is this. It is incumbent on us as devotees that we use every cent of that money in Krishna service. That's what the second half of the verse means, you see. That we use that money if we use it for sense gratification, then this is very fallen. Then we fall from that position of devotional service. There's a story about three ministers who are facing this dilemma because on the one hand, they needed to support themselves, but on the other hand, they needed to maintain their church. So they're talking about how they do it. One of them says, every Sunday after the plate goes around, the collection plate, I take 50% and I use it for myself and then 50% for the church. And the other one said, well, I have a little different system. In my office, I have a line on the floor. After the Sunday service, the collection plate, I go in the office, I turn it over, dump it on the floor. Whatever falls on this side is for the Lord. Whatever falls on this side is for me. The third one said, I have a little different system. After the Sunday service, I go to the pulpit. after everyone leaves, I take the collection plate, I throw it in the air. The Lord takes whatever he wants. So, yes, it's a big issue in religion, and people are very skeptical about religion because it's so intertwined with economic development. The pitch today is that for many religious leaders, is that if you're doing things right with God, then you'll have money. And if you don't have money, it's because you're not right with God. And you send us money and you'll be right with God. So it's like an investment. They're trying to get people to make an investment. Very little investment, big return. And naturally, anyone with a brain looks at this and says, this is ridiculous. This is just exploitation. What am I getting out of this? I'm being told that I'll get all these benefits, invisible benefits, if I give money to this guy. But then they don't get anything. And naturally, it is very, very discouraging for people to think about religion or spirituality or God at all. So many people have become skeptical of religion because of this. Therefore, the fastest growing religious designation in America is, do you know? Spiritual, but not religious, right? Right. This is how people are, is a natural consequence of mixing money with spirituality. So Prabhupada would always say that the money is Krishna's problem. He said the money is in the air. You just have to pick it. So our purpose is serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna, hearing and chanting about Krishna as much as possible. And if we have that mentality, that our first business is pleasing Krishna, I have experienced in my life, the money somehow or other takes care of itself. We have to be responsible. We have to figure out ways to generate income. But if we use that income very carefully and recognizing always that it's Krishna's money, not my money, then there will be enough money for what we need. If our mentality is correct, then we don't have to worry about generating money so much independently. Again, we have to be responsible. We have to look for ways that Krishna is giving us to generate money. But we should know that money is not the goal. Money is the energy that we use for serving Krishna. So this is some of the meanings of this verse and why Srila Prabhupada thought of it immediately when asked about it, the most important verse in Bhagavatam. Out of 18,000 verses, you can pick this one. Amazing, huh? So any discussion, any thoughts, reflections on these topics? If not, then I'll give you the address where you can send donations.
I just want to just briefly reflect that that was really nice to, as we were reading the verse and the purport, I could already see how easily it would be to go down the road of talking about career dharma from this verse. And so I was kind of hoping that you would reference that body of work because it's been on my mind a lot since I attended the Krishna House retreat in May. And actually, like Jagannath Chaitanya Prabhu also got a consultation with Prabhupada Priya recently. So we have like both been thinking about that yeah. And I just think that it's so, I mean, one thing that's kind of confusing for me is that Prabhupada over and over talks about how, like, Vaishnava is above Brahmana, right? As you mentioned in the class, Vaishnava automatically becomes Brahmana. And I guess in Prabhupada's books, he uses the word Brahman in several, maybe in a couple of different ways. And so basically my perception, and please help me understand if this is wrong, but I get the perception sometimes that Prabhupada like still very much uh you know consider like has a mental conception of hierarchy between the fields. And by saying that a Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana is implicitly sort of elevating one field above the others.
Well, the Brahmin is the highest class. That is a fact. But what is important for our understanding is that it does not exclude other classes. You see, that's what we're fighting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada, and us, we're all dealing with that issue of casteism. People think I'm born a Brahmin and only therefore I can be a Brahmin. And it's called cultural appropriation if anyone else tries to act Brahminically. So this is why the Prabhupada says the Vaishnava is above the Brahmin. The Vaishnava can act in any Varna and any ashram. There's no restriction. That's the difference between a Vaishnava and a non-Vaishnava. The non-Vaishnava needs to act within the Varnashram system to advance to the point of being a Vaishnava. So is there a hierarchy? Yes, there is a hierarchy between the Vaishnava and the non-Vaishnava. But within the class, within the castes and Varnas, the ashrams and Varnas, there's no hierarchy. There's again, superficial hierarchy. Like if you're within the system, there's a hierarchy. But if you realize the goal of the system, then the hierarchy is not relevant to you. Certain cultural things. I mean, okay, you should offer obeisances to a sannyasi, but the point is that being a sannyas does not automatically make one a Vaishnava. You meet a Vaishnava sannyasi, that's very exalted, but you see the point. Remember that the common factors for all people, these are described by Bhishma Dev later in the first canto in the 9th chapter, and was mentioned in the Career Dharma also. There's certain qualities that all human beings must have to be human beings. Right? Honesty and cleanliness, the ability to be austere, to practice some austerity. The opposite of these things are falsity, being dissatisfied, always wanting something more, being unclean, which is connected actually to quarrel. If one quarrels is at odds with other people, this is a kind of uncleanliness of the heart. So, I hope that answers your question, though. We are acting on a platform by the grace of the acharyas that is above the Varnashram system, that is above career dharma. And we may look back at career dharma to make sure, okay, well, am I in the best possible situation for my nature to be sure that I can maintain this Vaishnava practice for the rest of my life?
Thank you. And I have one, oh, sorry, Anita.
Yeah, I think until you made the last statement, I was thinking like Vaishnavas are said to be above the 4 Varnas, yet we tried to figure out what Varna we might belong to. So it's always been a little confusing for me. But you said
that's because you're.
Yeah, but the last statement you said, like, we look back and just as a way to making sure that we are like safely situated. But the goal is not to be in one of the Varnas, but the goal is to go for like what a Vaishnava goes for, but being in the right Varna helps you attain that goal more easily. That's the only reason to look back on it, not like if I have the qualities of Brahmana, that's my goal, to become a Brahmana or to become a good businessman. That's not the goal in itself.
Right. A lot of this has to do with age. When you're younger, it's important to experience a variety of different occupations and situations so that you can find out what actually excites you, invigorates you, attracts you. That's what's important. That's why for young people in particular. So the career dharma is really good to study when you're in your 20s, 30s, and you're still exploring and experimenting and experiencing varieties of things, of jobs, of careers. There's a lot of pressure in academia, isn't it? Like you enroll in college when you're 18, 19, and by the time you're 20 as a junior, you have to choose a major, right? You are forced to choose a major at 20 years old. You're supposed to decide on what you're going to do the rest of your life. And then this is why when people graduate from college in their early 20s, they're very preoccupied with the 401k, right? What does this job provide in terms of a retirement plan? It just strikes me as so sad, actually. It's just so sad that they've been neatly molded into a little economic unit in society. So now you plug in and you work for the next 45 years, and then you'll be happy. Then you can enjoy. Oh, so it takes courage not to just do what everybody else is doing and plug into that system and believe that at the end of the road there's going to be happiness. It takes courage to challenge it and say, I'm going to do things in a different way. I'm going to have different priorities in my life. And just like Arjuna on the battlefield, it doesn't mean walking away from the duty. It just means learning how to do this duty for Krishna. Now, if one has, as a result of the system, ended up in a position that one really doesn't like, one's doing some kind of job that really one does not care for at all, one has to be a little bit honest and say, okay, this, as daunting as it is to admit it, this type of work just doesn't do it for me. I'm too drained, I'm too distracted, I'm too corrupted, or there's too much negative non-spiritual influence in this. Or I have to take it home with me and do it all the time, and I don't have time to chant or hear. One has to be honest about these things. And so being honest just may mean that, okay, I have to recalibrate my whole life. Many decisions I made may not be serving me well right now. So that's for each individual to figure out. And this is why I asked Irmala about this question. Is the role of guru, where does it fit? Is that entirely in the area of ideas? And she said, no. No, that guru has nothing to do with vocation. Guru means one is just teaching and helping others. That's it. That's all a guru is meant to be doing. Not if somehow being a guru is associated with one's livelihood, then this is in violation of this verse that we're studying. See. So when you're young, you have to explore and decide on these things. And this should be a criterion, not one's 401k, but rather, do I like what I'm doing? Do I like it enough to do it regularly and sustainably for the rest of my life? And if not, then one should explore at least as much as possible. What are some options? Like if you're in a field of research, maybe you prefer to be teaching, right? If you're a field of action, maybe you prefer to be managing. Maybe you would prefer to make sure everything is working nicely and you belong in governance. So that's all. It doesn't mean abruptly changing, but it just means being honest enough to say, to evaluate. Do I enjoy what I'm doing enough so that it doesn't completely drain me? I hope that answers your question.
I have another question.
Sure.
I've been thinking about so as you mentioned, like the grihastas are the only group that are supposed to be earning regular livelihood.
Yeah.
And brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, they're they're supposed to be exclusively focused on, well, they're supposed to be exclusively performing the 64 angas of bhakti. So one thing I'm trying to understand is it important for vanaprasthas or brahmacharis to be engaged in services that also align with their psychophysical nature, that they would have a job in the Grihastha ashram?
Well, they're two different ends of the continuum, aren't they?
Yeah.
First of all, we have to understand that brahmachari is it's hard to practice in an appropriate way in this Kali Yuga. And many of us come to spiritual life already after the years for brahmachari practice are already over, more or less. So it is often a case where a brahmachari will have a job because they've taken on economic responsibilities and they have a career, but they're single, and that's very common. On the other end of the spectrum, the vanaprastha is supposedly at the retired point of life where one is no longer obliged to work in a job for economic support. That also is increasingly rare in Kali Yuga, where somebody can actually do that, and say, I don't require now, I have earned enough where I can now maintain myself on my previous earnings. So therefore, now what is my priority in life? So again, in Kali Yuga, many devotees struggle with that at that stage of life and can't really retire because they still have to keep earning. So every situation is individual. Okay. And this is why it's important to understand the Vaishnava is above the Varnashram system, because we can't pigeonhole ourselves now into some Varnashram position that is not consistent with the actual experiences of our life. And nor should we try to constrain ourselves. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a brahmana, I'm not this or that, I'm what? Gopi Bharta Padakamali or Dasa Das Anudas. I'm the servant of Krishna's servants. See, that's the proper mentality for the follower of Lord Chaitanya. I am Krishna's servant. That's who I am. I'm in this particular role right at the moment. Like that what's it, the South Indian Brahmin who when Lord Chaitanya came through, he said, "Oh, I just want to go with you. This is the best thing in the world. I just want to be with you. I don't want to do any of this worldly stuff anymore with my family and job and so forth." And Lord Chaitanya said, "No, Yari Daha Tarika Krishna Upadesh. You stay right where you are, and whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. And this way you become a guru and try to liberate your land." So if within our situation, whatever it may be, we're doing our best to share Krishna consciousness with others, that's the perfection. Then we're following Lord Chaitanya. Then, because that, again, is a selfless service. It is not one of the dharmas, career dharmas. It's not one of the ashrams or varnas. It is above all of them. Prabhupada put it like this. He said that an acharya is somebody who knows the philosophy, lives the philosophy, and teaches the philosophy. Very simple. We know it, and we practice what we've learned, and then we teach others. Then that's just the position of guru, acharya, above the varnas and ashrams. Because why are we doing it? Just to help other people. That's all. That's the only reason. We don't have any ulterior motive. All right. Anything else? Good morning, Alankar or Sri Radha Muni, if you are there. So, okay, we'll call it a class then.
Thank you so much, Kalakantha Prabhu, for sharing with us this morning, and we hope to hear more from you in the future. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Happy to do it. It's a convenient time for me if whenever you like. Well, weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. Whatever mutually convenient, huh? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay.